Welcome back to the Boys and Bolos podcast. We're down here in the barbershop studio. I'm back from Mickey Mouse's house, and I made it. I went to the dark side. I was able to come back.
Yeah, there's really nothing like going to Florida days after it's had a life-ending hurricane. I mean, Fort Myers essentially isn't even on the map anymore. I don't even know at what point DeSantis and who's there, Rick Scott, the guy who bans the words climate change from government documents because that's cool. I don't even know at what point Florida just kind of gives up. It's like my Honda, for example. If you know my Honda, it's a 2004. I probably need to put like $1,000 into it, but it's probably only worth $500. So that's totaled. At some point, there are going to be parts of our world that are totaled. And I don't know if we're there yet, but
you let the bayou take it back, baby. Just let it take
let
it
the
back.
gators
just let
take
the
it
ocean,
back.
Just let all the water flow back in.
That's it.
Fill the tributaries, fill in the tidelands, and just let it go. Let it go. Just let the state go. It doesn't need to be there.
Actually, shout out to Mitch. Mitch is in South Florida listening to this. He's probably like buying kayaks. He's like, "Yep, I'm ready."
Well, he was in Miami, right? So he's like, it didn't hit Miami.
It didn't hit
bad,
Miami
right?
yet. It was a hurricane that went up the Yucatan side, the West Coast, and then cut across, got back out to the Atlantic, and then turned into category 2 or 3, and then hit again in South Carolina. So
the funny thing is, I've been watching a lot of documentaries about.
We'll eventually also talk about soccer if this is your first time listening to Boys and Bolos.
Yeah, So Boys and Bolos is a soccer podcast. Thanks for joining. We generally talk about Premier League and Champions League, but I'm going to give you. So I've been watching a lot of Disneyland, Disney World documentaries. Usually, it's not satirical, but it's more painted in a dark picture, like the history of it. Walt Disney was a crazy guy. Watching a lot of the channel Defunctland, which does a lot of like history of things that went wrong with theme parks. Well, fun fact about Disney World is that it's basically its own like autonomous town. They took over Buena Vista, Florida. They have their own utility. They have their own like housing for the people that work there. They have their own thing. Like they're not like really governed by the state of Florida. So like Ron DeSantis just kind of lets Disney World do its own thing, because if they pay, I'm sure they pay some like taxes or payment in lieu of taxes to the state, and they're good. Like they just let them, they operate. The Mickey Mouse runs around, and Goofy does his thing.
Is it kind of like, I don't know if you've ever been to Italy or Rome. I assume it's like Vatican and Rome's relationship, where they're like hand in glove as far as how it works out. But it sounds like it's a similar thing. It's just like in the middle of it, and everyone's cool with it.
Yeah, it's like you don't talk about. It's like the area where like flirty in politics and world, like everything kind of dies at the door, and it's just about the Disney quote unquote experience, right? You got people coming in from all these different places. You got like cast members. They're called cast members. They're not called staff. They got them running around in their suits and their garb and their themes, and they're trying to make sure everybody's guest experience is top notch, and they don't really talk about anything but making sure your vacation is it goes perfectly. Let me tell you, pro tip for all the dads and moms out there who have toddlers: don't take your kids to Disney World under the age of 5. It's just not worth your money or your time.
Maybe you could even extend that to under the age of 10. Just get creative.
You could definitely extend that to under the age of 10, because under the age of 10, they probably won't. If they go, they won't even remember it. Because I sure as hell don't remember it when I went when I was 8.
You don't remember any of it?
No, I don't remember any of it. I went when I was 12, and then when I was a teenager. And I barely remember when I was 12, but I remember the last time I went when I was a kid. Like when I was in my 0 to 18.
Prepubescent,
I don't,
Jeffrey.
Right. I went when I was like 16 or 17. And that's right. That's when the cynicism and the jadedness was already like kind of creeping into my whole vibe. And so I was like picking up on some of like the bullshit,
What happened was you started to watch Spurs in high school and turned into a cynic who can walk outside on a sunny day and see the black sun.
Can you guess, our listeners out there, this might be something that you might be able to guess at home, what was the most popular club jersey? Now, it doesn't have to be Premier League. What was the most popular club jersey that I saw while I was in Disney World? Now, I didn't see a lot. That was one thing I was actually more surprised about. I was expecting to see more international club jerseys, even like Orlando Pride, Orlando, are they called the Pride? Or no, Orlando,
They're
whatever the MLS team.
just Orlando City, and their
Yeah,
mascot is
Orlando
a lion,
City.
so they call themselves the Pride.
I saw one Orlando City jersey, but that was the only one.
Yeah, because if you're from
I was
Orlando, you stay away from Disney World. It's like how New Yorkers will refuse to go to Times Square. So
Right. I was expecting to see more international club jerseys or even just an international jersey, any type of jersey. Not a lot of that because people seem to be very committed to the Disney merchandise swag look, like buying shirts and merchandise and wearing hats and all that stuff that's Disney related, even though they're there in Disney World. Like, it's a very weird vibe. It's like buying a concert t-shirt and wearing that t-shirt of the tour of the band you're seeing. It's very strange.
to answer your question, I would go with three
Yes.
clubs. They would be Real Madrid, Barcelona, or Manchester United. Those would be my guesses, and maybe it's one of those three. Which one was
I saw it. I'm going to go back to front. I saw no Manchester United jerseys.
Okay.
I saw 0 Barcelona jerseys.
0.
0. Not one Barcelona
Okay.
jersey. I saw 1 Real Madrid jersey on a 10-year-old.
Did you ask him for his age?
No, but I mean, he looked 10.
Okay.
He was a young kid. It was bizarre. His dad was wearing I think his dad was wearing like a Mönchengladbach jersey. It was a very strange dichotomy there. Bundesliga and
Bundesliga and La Liga
Liga.
situation. Okay.
yeah, no. John Scheimer
Arsenal?
will love this one. I saw 3 Arsenal jerseys while I was down there. 3. I didn't see a lot, but I saw 3, and they were one. It was a guy wearing last year's away kit, but I think it was his last name on the back of the kit.
Of course
which
it was.
was a weird vibe.
A true winner.
It was a true Arsenal fan.
Unless that's given to you as a gift. If you have the gall to go onto soccer.com/shop and add your name, you are an absolute
Exactly.
savage, and I question everything. Just my opinion.
It might have actually been this year because they have that weird font that's like hard to read.
Oh,
on the back.
right, yeah.
You know how it's like that weird it's almost like a Gothic kind of
Yeah,
font.
it looks like a Game of Thrones meets Arsenal or something.
So it might have been like Xhaka, and I just couldn't read it because it was like
Well,
it was
also
so,
literacy, and you were in a haze of bringing 3 kids to Disney World in 90-degree heat post a hurricane. So
I might have been like heat stroking out. So
heat struck.
when I saw it, I was heat struck.
Okay, so that's
First
one.
of all, I saw an Arsenal jersey in Disney World, and I was like,
Maybe it was actually Xhaka. There's a new conspiracy.
and also
theory.
like if it was Xhaka, like that's some like serious commitment because that guy probably bought it like pre Xhaka's resurgence because he's playing really well.
God, it pains me to say it,
It's
but
like
Xhaka is
alarming.
playing so
He has
well.
he has that. I don't even think he has a yellow card this season, which is like
no,
unbelievable.
He's got a yellow
maybe
card
has
for
one.
sure.
He's got one.
He starts the season with a
Barely.
yellow card. It carries over. They're like, talk anytime minutes. He just starts it with a yellow card.
I don't have any beef with Xhaka besides him being like in the previous season. He's kind of been a thug, but like not. I mean, he's fine. Whatever. He doesn't like bother me either way.
All right, what were the other 2
Yeah, so I
jerseys?
saw 3
and then maybe we won't lose all of
Arsenal-
our followers.
I saw 2 Spurs jerseys. I saw a Sun jersey. That was in Logan though. That was like back in Boston. That was like, but it was this year's Sun jersey. I saw a Kulusevski jersey, the fresh like blue away kit from this year. So I saw 2 Spurs jerseys. So I thought 3 Arsenal, 2 Spurs. I saw 0 Chelsea. Sorry. I saw I think I saw like a West Ham jersey or something, some weird random one. And then I wore my Leeds jersey, the away one.
Did you wear your Spurs
Last day.
jersey while at Disney?
I did. I wore the fresh. Was it the 3rd kit?
Yeah,
I think
it was
one
the
with all, like,
alternate from last year. That
alternate
that one's
last
super
year.
sweet.
Yeah, I wore that one. But I've been finding, and I'll admit this, just like I admit that I'm losing my hair, I fit better into a men's, like these like jersey sizing. I fit better in a large than a medium. I like the way it feels, not so much the way it fits.
Oh, I can't breathe in a medium. You bought me the medium pulley, and I thought I was going to die. I couldn't get it over my shoulders.
I had to return it.
I had to
Listeners,
return it.
We had to return
the
it
low,
and
though.
get you a large.
On the low key. Anyway, let's talk about week 10. So let's not dabble too long in week 10 because it's kind of now very much in the rearview mirror and week 11 is upon us. We're probably going to publish this on Friday, and there's games on Friday. So Chelsea beat Wolves, no surprise. Manchester City blew out Southampton, no surprise. Bournemouth beat Leicester. Leicester are in trouble. My question from this week, I have two. One, how long until Brendan Rodgers is relieved of all of his duties? And what is the lowest you think Arsenal can finish with their win this week against Liverpool?
Interesting. I'll tackle Leicester first. I think a lot of people saw this coming after last season because they dropped so far down and then they didn't reinvest in the club and they let Schmeichel go. I think that was kind of like the big writing on the walls. They let their one of their best players just kind of leave. They didn't even bother to try to keep him. That was kind of alarming to me. And then you'd think with Maddison and Tielemans and even Vardy hasn't been playing well, and they got some young guys like Daka and I don't know. But they left. That's it. They don't have much else, right? So they have those 3 or 4 players, and Soyuncu's no longer starting. He's falling off a cliff, and yeah, it doesn't seem like that team is gelling well, and they don't have a way to score. Vardy's just I think Vardy's done. Honestly, maybe he's just done, and I don't know if they were anybody's radar to get relegated. If they get relegated, that club's going to fall apart. They're just going to fall apart. I don't think they have, with their owner dying a few years ago, that was crazy, that helicopter crash, and they have the kids taking over. I don't know if the people at the top of the ladder in the leadership at Leicester care enough to let that team, keep that team in the Premier League. Now, January's coming. It could change. They could pump some money into the club, but they may be in a similar situation to Everton where they need to balance the books and they don't have the money. They let players let players like Conte go. They let, who knows? I feel like maybe you probably think the same thing on this, but yeah, I don't know. I don't see them finishing much higher than 17th, honestly.
That's the highest I think that they can finish currently, and I think you hit on all the points. There's stuff on the field that has been in disarray. There's injuries. I think there's backroom management. I think the Schmeichel thing was just weird to me. It just kind of happened, and it was weird, and it was over, and he was off to France. Vardy has been trending downward, to be fair, for about 2 or 3 seasons. That wasn't surprising. Sionchu, after I think last season or maybe the season before, he had that injury, and he's never come back. Before that, he was in Team of the Week. He was up on, Team of the Month. He was really looking good, and that is a downfall. Maddison, to me, is still one of the best pound-for-pound players in the Prem, but he can only do so much. And historically, I don't think there's a team, and if you're listening and you know better, please DM us. I don't think a team has ever, in December, going into the Christmas break, and I'm using air quotes here, there's never been a team that's gone out of last place that saved themselves. If you are last place by the time the 19th game is played halfway through the season, you're going to get relegated. That's just kind of how that cookie crumbles. And I don't see them. It just gets so tough. They lost Fofana. That doesn't help. They are just kind of falling apart. And so my question with this is, do you replace Brendan Rodgers, or is it the age-old situation? Well, we can't replace him because we don't have anything better. But I wonder if Chelsea changed that, because Chelsea fired Thomas Tuchel, who arguably is one of the top 5 coaches in the world, and then they just went and bought Graham Potter. They just stole him from Brighton. So I wonder if the game has changed, and whether the family there that's very, very wealthy, if they would just go pick off another coach from another team that they thought would work. Because other than that, I don't know who you're going to bring in. I mean, are they going to go pay Tuchel? I mean, I don't really know who's out there to get. And because for me, they need a miracle. Problem. They need Mbappe.
It's not a coaching problem.
Conspiracy
it's a
Mbappe.
Problem. Yeah, it's a coaching problem. It's not a coaching problem. Brendan Rodgers is good enough to get that team into 5th, 6th, 7th for the last couple seasons, 8th, whatever it is. It's not him. Maybe he made me move them up a few places, but even then, even if they move out of the relegation, they're still underperforming. A team that was in 4th or 5th 2 seasons ago to drop this far down with roughly, I guess their team has changed, but I guess their players really have dropped off. I think the more likely scenario, and I'm going to make a prediction here that maybe some of our listeners might disagree with, but I think a more likely scenario is that Maddison, somebody needs a midfielder after the World Cup. because they lose to an ACL, to a 12-week injury, this or that, and they need a solid midfielder, actually an above average, one of the best midfielders in the Premier League, and they pay top dollar, emergency dollars for Maddison. And Leicester says, look, we got 60 million, 70 million for Maddison, because his price tag's around 50, I think. I think that's what the numbers were kicking around when Spurs were knocking at their door. If somebody's going to pay 65 million for Maddison, Leicester have to accept, because they need to reinvest in the squad in January to either buy a player here or there, or to just bank it and then buy some good championship players when they get relegated so they can move back up in the Premier League the next season. I mean, that's literally the trajectory they're on. Is not the trajectory of staying in the Premier League. It's the trajectory of dropping down and being like a Norwich and bouncing back up. Like, that's how bad it is at Leicester, I think. Honestly.
No, I agree. And I think, and I just want to go over their matches, right? So they tie Brentford the first game. The first game of the season, crazy things happen. I don't really count the first 3 games because you're just getting the kind of the rust off. So they tie Brentford. Okay, lost 2 points. Then they lose to Arsenal, who's actually a much better team. That's okay. You're going to lose that game. They lose to Southampton. That's a problem for me. Then they lose to Chelsea. Not that big of a problem. They actually outplayed Chelsea most of that game. We just kind of got lucky. Then they lose to United by 1 goal. That happens too. United's honestly a better club. They lose to Brighton 5-2. That was the first red flag. That's maybe when Brendan Rodgers should have been pulled in the room and maybe had detention or something. Had to write his name on the board 1,000 times. Then Spurs destroyed them 6-2.
Yeah, and that game, because I obviously I was watching that game pretty intently. Spurs weren't playing well, and literally a formation change wrecked Leicester. They switched to 3-5-2 and they just pounded them. So like that team doesn't have the capabilities to adjust, and then maybe that's a coaching thing, maybe that's a personnel. I don't know, but they got rocked second half of that game.
So
rocked.
They get rocked by Spurs. The next game they destroy Nottingham 4-0, which they really needed, and we talked about it that week 9. They really, really needed that win. Then this past week though, they lose to Bournemouth. You can't lose to Bournemouth. You can't lose to Southampton, not in the current league where we are. Brighton's pretty good, so that's okay.
You can't lose to Brentford either. You can't lose to Brentford.
They tied Brentford, so they didn't lose to Brentford, but they did drop 2 points. That is a lot at the end of the season. So I actually think Leicester will probably be in 19th or 18th by the break, and I think they escape, but this is going to be a very impressive escape. And I love your call. I think Maddison goes to Liverpool. Liverpool need a creative midfielder. They don't have one.
So bad.
He could just sit right in front of Thiago and do some different stuff. They are totally missing creativity moving forward. I think that in January, too, we're going to have a really weird January because it's right after the World Cup. And with Mbappe wanting to leave, arguably one of the biggest players to move, maybe in the last 2 decades, in my opinion, top 10 players to maybe have moved with his talent and overall potential, and he's won a World Cup. If he goes in January, he may inspire other movements this January, which we normally wouldn't see. Normally big names go in the summer, as we know. So if Mbappe were to go to Liverpool and James Maddison goes to Liverpool, it would, as you're saying, give Leicester that liquidity to make some serious moves super quick in the January transfer window. And honestly, there's always players that come out of the World Cup who no one's kind of heard of, or they're sleeper players, and then all of a sudden they're going to be a big deal. For me in the U.S., Munsa is one of those players. He is an absolute beast, and I think he's going to be gobbled up in the January transfer window. But let's go back to week 10, and I'm glad we talked about Leicester because I think we definitely needed to talk about it. Week 10, Arsenal beats Liverpool in a big game. We could actually talk about this game for an hour, but I don't want to lose too much time because we already talked about Florida for 10 minutes. So let's kind of move on, and I want to talk about the Champs League if you're cool with that, because the Champs League is getting spicy. And to talk about another team that is underperforming, that as of late, they were in the final in 2015, and they were in the final, I believe, my math, 2019, 2018, 2017, Juventus. I'm talking about Juventus. They have just, basically Ronaldo left, and they now are useless.
I couldn't tell you, like, besides maybe Di Maria, who's on that team.
And he's injured because Dybala left.
They've got that big guy. The big guy.
The
man.
Vlahovic that they got from Fiorentina. Yes.
Yeah.
But they're doing
been great.
so bad. If you look at the stats, and I'm getting down to where they are, they're in Group H. PSG and Benfica basically go through if they pick up another point. They're basically locks, and then they have to see who's going to go 1 and 2 out of that group. But Juventus is essentially only in Europa League. And this is a team that has been more competitively in the last decade in Champions League, and now they're just kind of destined to Europa League.
Yeah, there's no chance they're going through. I mean, mathematically they can, but that would be surprising.
They would need to win both games, and they would need PSG and Benfica to not pick up a point.
Yeah, and that's not happening. I mean, Benfica, they've been playing better. Even with losing Nunez, they're still pretty good. PSG obviously is going to go through. Juventus, they're underachieving. I think I don't know. There's some things happening. I mean, Bayern is just dominating.
Bayern always dominates the group stage. This is really kind of like nothing new. They always do pretty well.
Yeah.
If you go through and you look at let's look at all the third places and talk.
Actually, no. Wait a second.
Go ahead.
I gotta give props. Serie A team, number 1 team right now, Napoli. They are playing friggin' fantastic. Like if you watch some of the highlights, I don't watch the games because I'm either watching Spurs or one of the Premier League teams because that's what I'm, or Real Madrid and Barcelona because but that team is a blast to watch. They're fluid. They move. They attack really well, and they're very good defensively. Like I think they've given up like 2 goals or 3 goals or something silly. In this group stage, they're dominating. They're dominating in Serie A. They're playing extremely well, and it's just fun to watch. They're a fun team to watch. So if you are able to catch a Napoli game, either in Serie A or on Champions League, tune in. I think they're the team to watch. In the knockout stages, they play home and away up until the final, right?
Yes, they play home and away up until the final. I thought they were going to. I think they're going to change that.
Change that next shot.
Not next year, but in 2024. I think they're going to go to just a knockout, just one and done. Once you get to round of 16, or is it round of 8? It's
round of 8.
Okay, so once you get to the quarterfinals, then they're going to
quarterfinals.
Either way,
quarterfinals, semifinals.
So
Napoli's worth watching. So Eddie and Nader, I think we were talking about Napoli. They said semifinalists.
They said Napoli's, if they could put money, they would say Napoli's going to go be semifinalists, which I think.
I agree. I think that's a very strong possibility. It depends on who they get matched up with. But if they'll be a 1 seed, so they'll be okay until I think round of 8.
So what I was going to say,
third place. You're talking about third place.
I want to talk about third places because if you look at the third place teams, you have some teams that historically have been big in the Champions League. So you have Ajax. Ajax a couple of years ago only lost to Spurs in 2019. Otherwise, they would have been finalists if basically Luka Mora didn't destroy them in an entire second half. So they're in third in Group A. Group B, the third is Atletico Madrid, who in 2014 and 2016 they went to 2 Champions League finals. Now they're kind of falling off. Barcelona, for years ago, was running the Champions League. Now they're in third, and I don't think there's a way for them to go through other than a Christmas miracle. Sporting is a historic team, but that actually, I want to get back to Group D because that's still up in the air. Milan, Group E, won it last in 2007. Still a historic team. Could still go through, but they're currently sitting in third in Group E. Shakhtar Donetsk, they always are competitive, but they're still in third, and they've been playing really well. Like watching them play against Real Madrid was honestly impressive. And then Sevilla.
That game, by the way, that game tied in like the 90-something minute.
Rudiger got his face destroyed by the goalie so he could get the ball. Good old Rudy. Group G, Sevilla, they are Europa League kings. I think they've won it 6 times in the last 20 years or something. And then Juve sitting in third. So my point is this has been a really competitive Champions League season. And if you look at Group H, Group H is decided. Group G is decided. Group F is not decided. It's going to be Red Bull Leipzig or Shakhtar going in. Group E is probably the most competitive because any one of those teams could still qualify with 2 games left between Dinamo Zagreb, Milan, Salzburg, and Chelsea. And the same could be said for Tottenham's group, Group D. Any team could still qualify, at least mathematically, with Eintracht Frankfurt, who won the Europa League last year, Sporting, Marseille, and Tottenham. And Group C is is basically done and dusted. Atletico or Porto is going to go in Group B, and in Group A, it's going to be Napoli, Liverpool, and I don't see Napoli not going in first. So, anyways, Champions League has been very exciting this year, and I'm glad that Spurs are back. You guys have been playing well. You've been defending well, which is nice.
Shout out to Club Brugge, Tejan Buchanan. That it looks like Club Brugge is definitely going to go through. They're leading Group B. Big props to MLS star, New England Revolution star. That is awesome. He's starting those games, going from MLS to the fucking Champions League, starting. Gotta hand it to him. He is a superb player. Deserves all the credit he gets. Love to see it.
I'm glad you said this, and I'll say it again. His name is Tejan Buchanan. He's an absolute beast, and he's part of the reason why I think Canada qualified, because you had Alphonso Davies on one side and he was on the other side. He's a sleeper. He's one of the guys who's going to come out of the World Cup who easily could be bought up. Leicester could go buy him for 10 or 15 million, take him off Club Brugge and bring him over to the Premier League. He's a sleeper. He's going to play really well. Canada is also in a group of death in the World Cup. So if he shines there, he's going to be totally on the world stage saying, hey, I can do this.
Any club that plays in a wingback kind of formation, wingback style, Chelsea, Spurs, he can defend, but he's a really good wingback. Has a left foot. Is his left foot or is he right-footed?
I'm getting confused. I'd have to look.
I don't really know.
I think he's a right foot, but
okay. Either way, he's a very strong player, young potential. Watch out for him.
Tejan Buchanan, remember the name. Let's look, if you're cool, let's go ahead and let's look at week 11. We start off with a Friday game with Brentford and Brighton. Let's see. Do we want to just do focus games? Because Brentford, I think Brighton's going to win this. Brighton just look really good.
Yeah, Brighton's good. They're still looking for a coach, but that team's solid.
So the next game, actually, I normally wouldn't want to focus on this game, but since we did talk about Leicester's a lot this episode, Leicester play Crystal Palace, and for me, this is a must-win. Like, they're at the King Power. My prediction is that if Crystal Palace wins by more than 2 goals or more, Rodgers is done. He's absolutely done. I don't think that Crystal Palace is necessarily that much better than this Leicester team. I do think you're totally right. I just think that they've been underperforming. So that's my only prediction. If Crystal Palace wins by more than 2 goals, Brendan Rodgers is sacked by midday on Saturday.
They're not separate. They're only separated by 9 points and 5 goals. 9 points and they've scored. Crystal Palace have scored 7 more goals. This is not a lock for Crystal Palace, especially away. I still think Crystal Palace are a better team, but I could see at home Leicester squeaking out a 2-1 win.
I want Leicester to win. I'm putting it out there.
I want Leicester to win. I think that Brendan Rodgers, there's just no other better coach that they can get right now that's going to be able, they can just replace with Brendan Rodgers that's going to give them a better outcome for the players with the players they have. So my problem is not, it's like I said, my problem is not the coach, it's the personnel. And so they're gonna continue to win a game, lose 3 games, win a game, lose 2 games. They're gonna flounder.
What you've just said, you've described the relegation battle.
Yeah, exactly. They're gonna be in a relegation battle.
I think we're in agreement. The highest they can do is 17.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Okay,
and especially I think January is going to really tell the trajectory of the club's second season. I think if a club like Liverpool comes and sweeps in and pays $60 million for Maddison, they have to take it, because to either strengthen your defense to be a Burnley and just defend with their lives to get a point here and there to get 17th, or they think that Maddison's going to secure them more. So I just don't think Maddison is going to give them more points than what they can get with a few more players defensively to keep them in the Premier League. That's my opinion.
I agree. I totally agree. I mean, I think it's a massive personnel issue. Let's not talk about Wolves, Nottingham Forest, because they're both essentially in relegation and it's not too exciting. They're kind of trending down. No. Fulham and Bournemouth are kind of in the middle of the table. I expect this to be a tie, but I want to jump right into Tottenham Everton. We haven't talked about Tottenham in a while. You've been in Florida, haven't been on the pod. Good to have you back. Let's hear the cynicism. Will you beat them at home?
Absolutely.
But what if they play Dele Alli? Are you scared?
He's not. He's at Besiktas.
Oh my God! Yeah, he's at Besiktas. Yeah.
Yeah, he's in Turkey.
How can you let him go?
I know. You just love that cameo appearance from Dele. in like the 85th minute.
He just brings on so much hope.
I'm going to stray from my glass half empty kind of outlook, and I'm going to say Tottenham Hotspur Stadium is a fortress. We haven't lost a game there in like 15 matches.
Can you say that with a straight face though? No, try to do it again without giggling.
Tottenham Hotspur Stadium
You can't even say it.
Fun fact about Tottenham Hotspur Stadium: it may be called the Google Stadium very soon.
I know. I like how Daniel Levy's doing the most. He's sitting on LinkedIn like, "Hey, you work at Google? Can you
you
do
ever
some
thought
networking?
about naming a stadium? You ever thought about sponsoring a stadium?
Calling it a Google?"
I think Spurs are supposed to be at full strength. They're getting Kulusevski back. Moore is back. Brian Healy even played well in the Champions League. They got some attacking options. Kane scored a goal. Son scored 2 goals. I think they're firing much better. They're finding answers in the 3-4-3, 3-5-2. Everton's trash. I expect a pretty big win. I don't think it's going to be comfortable in the first 20 minutes because Spurs are Spurs, but I think they'll figure it out and win like 3-1.
I'm excited to watch this game. I think it's going to be good. I just find Everton to be tricky customers, and I do like their players. I mean, I think Maupay is not someone I ever want to play against. Damari Gray is nice. Onana out of the midfield, he can be troubling when he wants to be. So we'll see. Let's go to the next game.
The problem is their defenders are garbage.
Yeah, the problem is they have absolutely no defensive line, and they basically have Jordan Pickford back there. He's praying the entire time.
He's just praying and shouting. That's it. That's
praying and shouting and greasing his hair back. The next game I actually want to talk about, so you can answer my second question, which you did not answer, is what is the lowest Arsenal can finish?
Oh, thank you. I thought I got to
get you back on track.
Circle back to the Arsenal.
Circle back.
I think the lowest, honestly, I'm going to say with Liverpool's fall off, the lowest they're going to finish is 4th.
I think the lowest they're going to finish is 3rd. United's not that great. Spurs not going to push them that much, I don't think, over they've just got a lot of points already. And Spurs, Chelsea, and United just aren't really going to be – Spurs, Chelsea, and United are going to fight it out for 3rd and 4th, is my opinion. I actually think Arsenal might finish 2nd, but I think the lowest they'll finish is 3rd. They're playing really well, and they just have that swagger. When you're playing well, you're just going to go be like, yeah, we're going to figure out how to win this game.
That's a good point because if Liverpool is going to finish out of – because everybody picks Liverpool to finish 2nd, right? City finishes 1st, Liverpool finishes 2nd. If Liverpool drops to 5th or 6th, like Diego is saying, that just opens up a whole business with Chelsea, Spurs, and Arsenal because United's trash and they got Harry Maguire and Luke Shaw. And so,
anyone else you want to roll call? Lindelof.
Lissandro Martinez is short. That's all. That's all I got.
Martinez is short. Yeah. That's like calling the sky blue.
And so, yeah, I mean, that's true. I mean, 3rd could be 3rd. I'm going to say the absolute lowest they can finish is 4th, though. That's your question.
Okay.
Like, I'm not saying they're
that's my question.
Finish out of the top 4. There's no chance.
No, there's no chance. They're top 4. I think
unless they suddenly every one of their players that go to the World Cup gets an ACL injury and then they're decimated. But they're all
on a party bus. And the bus turns right too quick, and all their right ACLs get ripped off. That's
right.
It.
So, but that's not going to happen. They have the least of all the top 6 clubs. They have the least amount of players going to the World Cup just by happenstance, right? So, I mean, good on them. Arteta's spent a lot of money and built a squad of players that
it was Arteta's money. He came out of pocket.
You know what I mean? He chose to buy these players.
Whatever. No, it looks good. Arsenal's playing really well. I expect them to beat Leeds even at Ellen Road.
And I want to clarify something because we got into an argument with John and Diego about whether
we get into an argument with John every day because John believes the Earth's flat.
But the bottom line is that John thinks that you and I don't we don't give enough props to Arsenal. We don't think Arsenal is when we talk about Arsenal, it's like they're not good.
Maybe we don't give enough props to Arsenal on mic. But John doesn't know we have a shrine for Arsenal. We have the TT Henry shrine. Every time I come into your house, I do the Bergkamp swoop. John doesn't know these things. He doesn't see these things.
I got an Invincibles poster up on my wall.
Exactly. Yeah. I love Patrick Vieira. He's my boy. Crystal Palace.
But the problem is that like during that whole argument, I think John like comes from the thing that we think Arsenal is not good, like it's not deserved. Like no, we never. The argument isn't that. The argument is that like they've had some fair luck, some good luck along the way towards these. I would say like 9 of their points.
I think Lady Luck has definitely been a part of their journey this season.
9 points. I'm not saying they deserve to be like out of the top 3 or 4.
But actually,
like,
if you take those 9 points away, then they are out of the top 4. So that is what you're
whatever saying. It is. So maybe not 9 points, but like they were gifted 9 points. Maybe.
Well, the good news is we're going to move on before we go down that rabbit hole.
All right. I don't want to get too much into it, but the refs had a lot to do with that Liverpool game.
Here we go. Here comes the Spurs Twitter. It's bubbling over. So the one thing I will say is, and maybe I'm a traditionalist, even though I'm fairly liberal when it comes to politics, life, overall lifestyle. I'm a traditionalist in the sense that it's nice to see the chips are starting to fall the way they should.
Oh,
Arsenal and City are fighting.
The order
Tottenham,
of
Chelsea,
the league.
Manchester United, Newcastle's hanging around. But for a while there, it was weird. It was like Brentford, Crystal Palace. I don't know. It's like when you go to the house party and there are people there that you don't know, and you're like, bro.
Or like
what?
the geeks are talking to the hot chicks type of thing.
Yeah, but the hot chicks are also the geeks. It's just the whole vibe.
It's the whole thing. Yeah, up is down, left is right. You don't know.
Yeah,
what's
I'm a
happening.
traditionalist. I don't know. Maybe I don't get out of my comfort zone enough when it comes to the Premier League standings. But anyways, that's starting to actually happen, and that normally happens by week 10. And then by week 15, everything really starts to solidify, and you see who you're going to be like elbowing next to you in the table. So Manchester United Newcastle actually is going to be a very good game.
Oh yeah,
they are right next to one another, only separated by 1 point. The thing you should. I want to say this on pod. Manchester United are in 5th. Newcastle are in 6th. Manchester United have 15 points. Newcastle have 14 points. And since you can't see, or maybe this is your data point, what is the goal differential? Because that is insane. Don't look it up. Don't look it up. Don't look it up. Tell me. Don't look it up. Don't look it up. Stop cheating. You're looking it up. I can see you look it up. I hate it. I'll tell everyone.
Oh my God, that's
it's insane.
So rough. How do they have that many points?
So Manchester United
-2.
has -2. They're the only one in the top 6 to have negative goal differential. They have -2, and Newcastle have +8 or +8.
Yeah.
What does this tell us? This tells us obviously the City game brutalized Manchester United, but what it also tells us is when they win, they're winning by the minimum margin, which is 1 goal. They're not beating teams 3 and 4-0, even by 2 goals. So I actually think this game is going to be the game of the week, even though there's another game that we can talk about that's also going to be a fire game. But I think this is going to be super competitive. It's also at Old Trafford. And Ronaldo has been getting back in. He's been getting some PT. So I'm super bullish on this game. What do you think is going to happen?
Bullish on Newcastle, you mean?
I'm bullish on the game being an awesome game. I actually don't know what's going to happen. I think it's going to be a tie or Newcastle win. I don't think United are going to win this game.
You don't think United are going to win?
We just went over the goals. United's defense is a little bit Swiss.
Trust me.
Cheese.
If United were away, I would agree with you. But they're at Old Trafford. I think they will rise to the occasion. I think Anthony. Now I'm biased because I just added him to my fantasy. But I think he scores a goal. I think Ronaldo scores a goal. I think they win barely 2-1. Now, I could be wrong because Newcastle do look the better team on paper. But United did beat Arsenal. So transitory kind of theory, wrap it around. Connect the dots. Man United win at home.
Okay.
Harry Maguire will not start.
It's a tie.
If Harry Maguire starts or Luke Shaw starts, they lose 100%. They're
if Harry Maguire is even
defenders.
dressing, they lose. He's so atrocious. The only thing I hope is that Gary plays Maguire in the World Cup and England crashes out of the group stage.
But I don't think that's even happening now. That guy Dyer, although Dyer did play pretty poorly this past Saturday. But either way, garbage. He's garbage. Maguire's garbage.
If there's a team that will win this Sunday, it will be a United. How about that stat? You like that deep dad joke?
It was good.
It was good. I think that it will be a tie or Newcastle win. You think United will win 2-1? Either way, what that tells us...
There's no tie. There's no tie.
There's no doubt. It's going to be a good game. It's going to be. I think it's going to be game of the week.
I agree. Game of the week.
However, let's move forward to what most people will think the game of the week and the one that is scheduled to be game of the week. Because normally the last game on Sunday is going to be your premier game. So we have Liverpool City now. After watching Liverpool Arsenal, and yes, there were some things with the refs, and yes, there was a red card that was soft, and yes, there was a penalty that wasn't given, and then there was a penalty that was given. Sorry, John Scheimer. What I do think this game is going to tell us
There's no red
is
card.
The state. There wasn't a red card?
No, you're thinking about the Arsenal Spurs game, but doesn't matter. There was a penalty in the box.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, he kicked him. There's nothing. It's fine.
So
I hear what
this
you're
is
saying.
going to tell us where Liverpool is. They're at home, which, as you say, is like a fortress, using air quotes. Now you stole that from Anfield. And I don't see a way that Haaland doesn't make a mockery right now of Liverpool's back line after watching them in the Arsenal game. I thought Arsenal did a pretty good job of kind of cutting them up. And honestly, if you watch that first goal, Trent Alexander-Arnold is so out of position. It is an absolute mind boggle. All he had to do was be one step in and one step back, tucked in. The ball goes in front of him, and then he has a chance to close it down. He's outside, the ball gets cut on his inside, and he's just out of the play. He's so abysmal. I think if he starts, they lose.
I've seen some comparisons. They're like Trent Alexander-Arnold is a championship defender, and I won't even go that far. He's a League One defender. He is a League Two defender. He doesn't know the fundamentals of defending on the wing in the Premier League. In soccer, he doesn't know it. He couldn't do it in Serie A. He couldn't do it in La Liga. He couldn't do it in fucking Liga Un. He is that bad. He would get diced in any of those leagues.
Yeah,
he's
Liga
bad.
Un. And Dombele would take him out. Take him for a sub.
He's lucky that he can pass the ball as well as he does and can take free kicks as well as he does. That's the only thing keeping him in the Premier League. He's bad. He's regressed.
So, normally
Terrible.
we're used to a 2-horse race in the Prem the last 3 seasons with City and Liverpool right there. Now, don't look. Stop cheating. Don't look. I know you're looking.
I'm not looking.
How many points separate City and Liverpool right now?
8.
Just guess.
8.
13. Worlds apart.
Yeah.
I think if Liverpool win, they win by the slimmest of margin by 1 goal, and it's going to be weird. I think if City win, though, 3 or 4 goals. I think this is going to be bad. That's my take.
I will say, Bobby Firmino. We're seeing the second coming of Bobby Firmino.
Bobby Firmino, you know what? Let's go right in. Do you want to call City winning this Liverpool game?
Yeah. City's going to win.
Okay,
That's
City.
not the point.
Let's get to Bobby Firmino. Bobby Firmino, everyone, is going to be the fantasy pick that you want to pick up this week because he's been playing very well, and he's still a tricky customer. Do you have him on your team?
I wait until next week because they're going to lose at City, but they're going to lose at City.
Yeah, I would also wait until next week. They're going to be destroyed at City. He's not really going to make an impact, but he's a guy who I think you may want to start to consider putting on your team. Yeah. I also want to shout this out because Oz and I were texting, and I want to what did Oz say? He said something super funny the other day. He said, if I ever get back in first, I'm going to change my team name to 3-peat just to mess with people.
Ooh.
He's just out there talking shit. And he's also like, who is this Will Hayden dude who like randomly triple captains goalies and then they score a hat trick? Because Will literally does that stuff. Like, I'm not unconvinced that he can't see the future. He's on some wizard shit. Will, if you're listening, like, dude, we might have to check you for doping.
What was his most recent?
I don't know. He did something ridiculous, and Oz and I were like, how did he possibly come up with that? He triple captained or not captained Haaland for a second, and it like hit. And I'm not going to go back and look through the weeks. I can. What did he do? Oh yeah, he captained Madison, and Madison scored all these goals, and he got 36 points. No one was captaining Madison. Everyone just keeps captain on Haaland just to be safe. So right now, Will Hayden's in the top spot. Rafe Mahmoud, nice Rafe, love to see that, is right behind him. Ozatik's in third. Mitch is in fourth. Arthur Riggs with Prodigal Son, I still love that. Nick Bailey with Haaland's homies. I'm in seventh, which is kind of fun. And then Diego's in 10th. Greg Latine's in 11th. Jeff, you're in 12th. And do you know who's in 13th? Who missed an entire week? Molly. Molly has gone from 22nd to 13th, and she missed an entire week. So I always tell her she's got about 50 points, more or less, if she had played that week. if Molly were to have 50 points, and I'm doing some napkin math, she would be in 7th, right behind me.
I actually
right
am more impressed that we have 22 people in the fantasy league. I think
none of them listen to the podcast, but that's not important.
Oh, doesn't matter. That's fine. 22.
We want to get our fantasy next year up to like 50.
Yeah,
and then
we get
100.
50. We get 50. We'll have a stronger fantasy following than we will podcast following.
That's the real dream. We just do this for each other. This is just for kicks.
This is just for kicks. It's just to talk to each other, share some laughs.
What was Diego? Diego was getting. I think Diego was angry that we just said last season that Manchester United is just Ronaldo vibes. He's like, I hate when you guys say that, and I'm like, dude, but it was just Ronaldo vibes. And then Ronaldo scored, and then you texted to the group chat, Ronaldo vibes are back, and he like lost it.
Really? Because you guys
he didn't lose it. He just thinks it's hilarious that that's all we say. Ronaldo vibes. I don't think Sean likes it either.
That's what it was last year, man. Like, we haven't said it this season at all because he hasn't been around. Like, I'm just calling it like it was. That team was Ronaldo vibes.
You're calling it like it was and like it is. A true objective commentator.
It was. They put all their eggs in the Ronaldo basket. It tanked them, and now they're trying to rebuild. It's like it cost them like hundreds of millions of pounds, whatever. Yeah, it's terrible.
You just went through a lot of currencies. They each mean different things.
None of them worth anything anymore, but
well, they're all worth the dollar, which is
nice for me, but you know.
Anyway, week 11 is on the horizon. Ciao.
Thanks for listening to the Boys and Bolos podcast. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch at Boys and Bolos.
If you'd like to be a guest, please reach out. You can hit us on any of the social media accounts that Jeff just mentioned, or email us directly at boysandbolos@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening, and see you next time.